In this video, we're going to be covering different ways to record a piano. We will cover different kinds of microphones you can use and where to place them to get the kind of sound that you want. We're going to be working in Ringer Recital Hall, recording this beautiful 97 key Bosendorfer. It's definitely worth more than your tuition, so make sure that we're being careful while we're working around it. Because this is such a delicate process with a lot of expensive materials, we're just going to go over how to set up microphone stands safely and securely so nothing falls over onto the piano and we don't have any microphones falling onto the ground or in the piano. When your boom arm is extended horizontally, always make sure one of your mic stand legs is pointing in the same direction as the boom. When the boom is extended between two legs, it's easy for the stand to tip over from the weight of the microphone. You can also add something like a sandbag or some kind of weight at the base to steady the mic stand. So, some microphones don't need a clip and you can just screw them directly onto the top. This microphone does. Before you screw it in, make sure to remove it from the clip. It's safest to screw in the clip alone without the microphone so that you don't drop it while trying to find the thread. There are a couple of different ways we can change the position of this microphone stand. You can unscrew that to raise it up, and this to lever it. And this one will extend the top arm. We're going to be using 8 microphones, 3 of them being pairs. We're using multiple of the same microphone to record the lows and the highs of the instrument, and panning them left and right for a stereo image. The SC7s will be pointed straight down towards the soundboard and hammers. Panning these left and right gives us an intense stereo image. This configuration sounds as if we are hearing the same thing as the performer. These are the PreSonus M7 large diaphragm condenser microphones. These will be placed inside the piano facing straight down into the strings in the soundboard. One is pointed in the middle of the hammers and the other is facing the low strings and middle section. This will sound very full as these large diaphragm condenser mics cover a large area. These are the R10 ribbon microphones. Each of them have a figure 8 polar pattern, meaning that they only capture sound directly in front and behind them. We are going to stack one directly above the other. The bottom is facing the middle of the hammers, and the other is off axis at 90 degrees. When we combine them, we make what's called a Blumlein polar pattern. This allows us to balance how much we want from the reverb-heavy peripheral versus the clear center. This is a boundary microphone, or a PZM, which stands for pressure zone microphone. It is a condenser microphone that is placed flush into a surface that you want to record. It works similarly to how you can hear reverberations in a table if you put your ear up to it. Most broadcasted hockey games have boundary microphones around the glass of the arena. This is to capture the sounds of the players slamming into the glass, which is fed into the main audio mix for the broadcast. For recording piano, we're going to place it directly onto the soundboard. This makes a very clear recording with very little peripheral noise. Finally, the large diaphragm spirit condenser mic. It'll be set to an omnidirectional polar pattern to provide an objective room sound as if you were listening from the audience. This is great to feed into your mix at a low volume to add a little bit of glue and liveliness to the sound. Having all of these microphones gives us the ability to mix the clarity of the close mics with the natural ambience of the room. With this setup, you can mix the two later in production to get the exact balance you want. Now that we have all the mics placed, we can start to plug them in. So when plugging in microphones, you want to make sure that you don't have any slack on your microphone cable after you've plugged it in. So you can see it's just dangling down. It would be dangling down into the piano, or you could potentially snag it and pull it along with you. So we're going to make sure that it's out of the way. Just by wrapping it around the stand a few times, just like 2 or 3, don't do too much. If you need to make minor adjustments, leave yourself enough slack to be able to do that. But for the most part, nothing should be dangling down. Everything should be neat and tidy. Also, towards the feet, make sure there's nothing snagging on the stand. If your foot catches it, you want to make sure it's all out of the way so that nothing goes wrong. So how are we going to get the cables up to our mixer? We could just throw them down the window, but there's a much cleaner option than that. There are 12 different XLR inputs with 4 on each wall. They are located near the floor below these wood panels. These will be where we plug in our microphones. Pull up your phone or get a piece of paper and write down which microphones you've placed into which inputs. I like to organize them to categories in order to easily remember what mic goes where. The close mics will cover inputs 1 through 4, which are located on the back wall in the middle. The SC7s will go into input 1 and 2, and the M7s will go into 3 and 4. For organization, I like to number them ascending from left to right. Now for the R10s in this Bloom line configuration. They'll be going into inputs 9 and 10, which are on the right wall under this wooden panel. I'm choosing this side because I know pianists typically approach the bench from the side furthest from the audience. Clean cable management is really important for people's safety. It's not a bad idea to put tape down over cables or put them under carpets. If somebody trips on a cable and is injured in your studio, you could be liable, so think ahead. The middle microphone facing the hammers will be labeled mid and be plugged into input 9. The top microphone will be labeled side and will be plugged into 10. The PCM microphone will be plugged into 11, and the Spirit will be plugged into 12. All of the input jacks in Ringer have corresponding outputs in the recording studio. They are all connected to this snake that each have a corresponding label. We'll be looking for mics labeled 1 through 4 and 8 through 12. Before I started recording, I put colored tape on our output wires. Mics 1 through 4 are labeled with blue. Mics 8 through 12 are labeled with white so that we can find them at a glance. While we put them in, we'll have to update our microphone chart. We're going to be working in terms of the mixing board's inputs and outputs now. The SC7s and M7s will remain inputs 1 through 4. The ribbon microphones cannot handle the phantom power that the Model 12 will give to the rest of the condenser microphones, so we're going to plug it into inputs 1 and 2 on a separate interface that has phantom power disabled. Coming back to the Model 12, we will plug in our boundary microphone. The wall input we chose for this is 11, but the Model 12 input will be 5, since this is where our mic 11 output is plugged into the mixer. Same goes for the Spirit. Its wall input is 12, but its Model 12 input will be 6. Once everything is plugged in, you can now turn on phantom power and start recording. It's never very practical to use this many microphones to record piano. I'm going to make one recording with all the microphones and transition between them so that you can hear the difference. This assignment, you're going to use at least 3 microphones. Use a combination of close and distant placements. Here's what a typical recording with 3 mics would sound like.